It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. Welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks again for joining me this morning as we talk about real estate here on WTMA. I've been doing this show for almost 7 years now, approaching 300 episodes, I believe, of this program. And so thank you for tuning in. If it's your first time tuning in, here's what we do. We talk about the real estate market, real estate news. I talk about my experiences as somebody that's been selling real estate for over 13 years now. I've done over 1,000 transactions in the Charleston market. So I share my insights into the market and educate you on the process, help you better understand what's happening right now and how that impacts you should you choose to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. I also like to take local, regional, and national news and then apply that to us here in the Low Country so we have a better understanding of what's happening with our market. Now, if you'd like to reach out to me directly and you're thinking about buying or selling a home, you're thinking about investing in real estate, which we had a great show on last week, feel free to reach me. We do sell real estate during the week, obviously. Love doing this show on the weekends, but our main job is helping people buy and sell real estate. So if you'd like to reach out to me to talk about that, my number is 843-345-1273. Again, that's 345-1273. You can check us out online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Learn more about myself and my team and who we are, what we do, all of our incentives when selling homes, home of the no gimmicks guarantee, which means that we're not going to give you a smoke and mirrors approach or some sort of foot in the door gimmick to try and earn your business. We're going to be upfront and honest with you. We're going to give you great value in return for that. So listingsincharleston.com is the website, or of course you can always send me an email, Brian, that's Brian with an I, Brian at BrianBeattyTeam.com. So here's what I want to talk about over the next hour. I want to split this up into two halves. I really want to first start and talk about the market and just some of the things happening nationally, regionally, locally that affect us here in Charleston, affect really everybody as it relates to home ownership. Talk about some of these articles that you may have read if you just Google real estate news about how the housing market might be at a tipping point. Are we still in a seller's market? Are we returning to normalcy? Are we in a buyer's market? Really just shed some light on what's happening here locally and some of the national things that are contributing to that. And then on the second half of the program, I really want to talk about preparing your home for sale, marketing properties, creating interest in your home, because as our market softens, it becomes more and more important for homeowners and the agent they hire to have a really effective plan to prepare and then execute a marketing plan that will get the home sold. So that's going to be the second half of this program. So I really want to start first, though, and just talk about what's happening nationally. And I'm going to start first, and I don't normally do this on this program, but I'm going to read a few short paragraphs from an article that I pulled up from consumeraffairs.com. And the title of the article is Real Estate Economists Warn That the Housing Market is at a Tipping Point. Experts say overpriced homes may have made renting a better option in many markets. And so it goes on to say that, home prices in several of the major U.S. housing markets have risen so much that there's this market barometer that some experts use to determine the health of the real estate market and signal, potential distress in the overall housing market. And it's called the Baracha, Hardin, and Johnson Buy vs. Rent Index. And it's put together by Florida Atlantic University and Florida International University. And it goes on to say that 19 out of 23 measured markets are showing the price of housing well above their long-term pricing trends. And so the target index that they're using says that higher home prices have led to a decrease in demand for homeownership that now makes renting more attractive in terms of building wealth, which I find interesting. But let me continue. It says, and it goes on with a quote from Eli Baracha, who's the real estate economist at Florida International University. He says, this is quite worrisome. However, the trend towards lower BH&J scores is a good sign that the nation's housing market is pulling back from the edge of potential disaster. and that the market last faced a potential disaster a decade ago when plunging home sales led to drastically lower prices and a wave of foreclosures. And at the time, home prices had inflated because it was so easy to get mortgages. And I'm going to talk about that a little later on today. We're going to talk about Trump's plan to privatize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and how that's going to impact the mortgage market. And so then they go on to talk about supply and demand, and that this time it's a little different because mortgages still aren't that easy to get, which I disagree with. If you can afford a home, you can get a mortgage. Yes, of course, there are going to be stipulations that have been put in place for good reason. But they're saying that there aren't enough homes to meet the demand, which is pushing prices higher. And in recent months, home sales have slowed as affordability has become a bigger issue and renting has become a better option. And really what it kind of goes on to say is that the good news is that the imbalance between buying and renting appears to be going down. That balance, that index of sorts is going down. And the higher the score, it just indicates extreme downward pressure on the demand for homeownership, which makes it less desirable than renting or reinvesting into other alternative investments. And so the article in and of itself is saying that it essentially is more attractive to rent and invest your money elsewhere rather than in an asset, which would be your home. And a lot of this article is targeting first-time home buyers. And I think that my big takeaway from this article is that what they're missing here is the fact that first-time home buyers, why are they not getting into homes in the first place? First, we have to understand that. A lot of it has to do with debt. Student loans are incredibly high. They have more than quadrupled in the past decade. I think even more than that. And so they have debt obligations that make it a struggle. They don't have income that's high enough to afford a home based on the debt to income ratio. And they have a lack of a down payment, which is really a big issue. And so the idea that it's more attractive to rent and then invest their money into, say, the stock market is predicated on the assumption that they have money to invest in the stock market, which most of them don't, or some other easily accessible vehicle. But those are very short-term plays for building wealth. Real estate continues to be the best option for growing long-term wealth that's accessible to the majority of people. And so this article, and the reason I'm mentioning this article to you is because I want you guys to understand how to sift through some of this data that you're absorbing. If you're thinking about getting into the real estate market, you're thinking about making a move and you want to buy a home or sell a home, and you're just trying to figure out, hey, what's going on out there? What's the appetite for a home like mine like? Am I going to be able to sell it? What's the environment look like there? And then when I go to buy a home, how easy is it going to be to get a mortgage? Is that mortgage going to be affordable? Can I afford the home that I want to move into and make sense out of this whole process? Or should I just stay where I am? Or if I'm a first-time home buyer, is it truly more attractive for me to rent than it is to buy right now? And I will say that, in the grand scheme of things, I don't see prices dropping drastically unless there's some sort of unforeseen circumstance that causes that. And of course, that can always happen. But I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening here in Charleston anytime soon. I think I see our market stabilizing and kind of returning to normalcy over the next few years. But we also locally have a lot going for us that kind of creates a little bit of a barrier, a bubble of protection, if you will, from some of these external forces that other markets might be subject to. And so I think that our market's going to be just fine for quite a while. There are plenty of people that are concerned about the direction of the market in specific areas of Charleston, and frankly, they should be. There are plenty of homes that are in locations and in price ranges that have shifted from being a seller's market to a buyer's market. There are several areas of Charleston that are now returning to normalcy, which is for you perceived as prices flatlining, or in many instances, prices coming down because, if you're selling your home and you're comparing your home to everything else that's currently on the market, and you have to drop your price below that in order to sell, then, the takeaway for a lot of people is, well, I have to now undersell my property, rather than the other side of the coin, which is that those homes are overpriced. The market's going to pay for a home what the market's going to pay for a home based on demand and supply. And so when I read articles like this, I just want you to understand that we locally, I don't think, are headed toward disaster anytime soon. I don't think there's a bubble that's going to burst. Real estate is and always will be local. But there are some other external factors that play into this, and that's what I want to talk about next, is Trump's plan to privatize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which essentially own half of the mortgages in America. And so we're going to talk about that next as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you want to reach out to me to talk about real estate, you just have some questions about the market, you want to start to put a plan together for your plans to buy or sell a home, please give me a call. My number is 843-345-1273. Again, that's 843-345-1273. Or visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And stick around. We'll be right back.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.